So today, not only do we celebrate the first day in the final week of the earthly life of Jesus, but also we mark the dark end when he was handed over and crucified. Two very different events occurring in a very short period of time, almost like bookends. And though we know the rest of the story that we will celebrate next Sunday, today we are stopped in a moment in time, and we are invited into this gospel, into this experience. We are invited to personally stand in the words of these last 6 days. Now, as I was thinking about what I was going to share with you last week, the Spirit kept feeding me some information, and over I kept hearing the word watching. And they stood in the background watching. And they all watched. Even the women who had followed him from Galilee stood at a distance watching. Now, we all know from this point of the biblical story that to follow Jesus largely meant that people pretty much just kind of walked with Jesus and watching him as he argued and healed and defied the Sabbath, as he stood up for the outcast, as he did all of the miracles that he did. It seems that all the people, including the disciples, stood and watched. And then today, in that last week that we're talking about as well, at being handed over, at being crucified, we just read. And they stood from a distance watching. It seems to me that the entire story is filled with bystanders. Now, we all know about bystanders. I'm sure everybody is quite familiar with reports where people are in their homes or their apartments looking down, and they are watching as somebody is being robbed or murdered or raped. We are familiar with crowds gathering to watch when people are in an altercation of some sort, whether they're fighting or arguing. Perhaps there are children that stand around and watch as bystanders when another child is being bullied. In many ways, we understand that to be a bystander is safe, right? We don't want to get involved. It's safe and comfortable to just kind of be in the background. We don't want to stand up or stand out. It's like my neighbor. I had a neighbor who just last week, she was involved with something, and I was talking to her, wanting her to speak up to other people. And she said, oh, no, I don't want to be one of those people, one of those troublemakers. What will everybody think of me if I do that? Well, I wonder if maybe the more important question might be, what do we think of ourselves when we become one of those bystanders that we just read about in our gospel lesson? How do we think about ourselves? On November the 8th, 1939, the Nazis went public with their violence against all that was Jewish, including the Jews. A violence so horrible that it is referred to as the night of breaking glass. On this night, a very famous theologian by the name of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a Lutheran pastor, and later a resistance fighter and leader, that very night he wrote in his Bible, "How long, O God, shall I be a bystander?" His personal and deeply felt confession and pain that he felt as a bystander. He knew all too well that to be a bystander, to simply stand and watch, is and was very safe. Maybe the whole point of this, from my perspective, is if we choose to walk in our Christian faith perspective, we must look beyond the palm fronds and the hosannas, and we must focus and look square at the point and the place of our redemption, the cross. Because if we do that, we can't be bystanders. So now I am asking you, let's leave the pages of those biblical bystanders, and let's return now to Paradise Valley in 2016, where you and I get a chance, we get a voice, we get a turn to speak what that cross of love actually looks like. We get our chance to show what Christ's love looks like every single day. And it's not an occasional thing. It's not just on Sunday. It's not just on our holidays. We get our chance to show the world what love looks like when we love our perceived enemies, Jews or Muslims or atheists or Buddhists or people of other faiths that we somehow think of as our enemies, as immigrants or refugees or the cast out or the marginalized or those who aren't exactly like us or don't look like us or don't think like us. We now get a chance. We have our turn to show the world what forgiveness looks like when those trespass against us are forgiven, when we reconcile and heal the wounded relationships that we have had. In this world of progressively violent goings on, and especially now in the midst of our political tornadoes that are swirling, you and I have our chance to show the world, to show our neighbors, our relatives, our friends, our coworkers, our colleagues, exactly what it looks like to follow the Prince of Peace, to accompany those who have been left out or who have, for whatever reason, been denied the fullness of life that God so wants for all of us. Now is our chance today, every day, to show what the love of Christ on the cross looks like, and to share that unbounded love with all. Yes, beyond the palm fronds and beyond the hosannas lies the cross, reminding us every day that we are bystanders no longer. Thanks be to God. Amen.